The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.
Hello, and welcome to round 6 of the Summer Chess Classic. As always, my name is Mikhail Denby, and once again I am joined by Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan. How are you today, Yasser?
I'm well. How are you, Caleb?
All right, doing great. I'm
Good.
Excited for another day of chess.
Indeed we
here
are.
at the Classic.
Absolutely.
The round, as always, is well underway. Those players battling it out at the Chase Park Plaza. And unlike yesterday, I think all the games are still in progress today, which is
very good.
Which is always nice.
Tell us about the standings.
Yeah.
After 5 very combative rounds of play, we're going to start with the A group.
Let's see where we stand. So going into yesterday, it was a huge bunch up at the top. Everybody was tied, but one player has managed to separate himself, and that is Andrew Hong, who won a very nice game yesterday and improved to 3.5 out of 5.
Ray Robson gave up what we thought was a decisive advantage, could only draw against Michael.
Struggling with the time pressure, as always, is Ray, but still finding himself in the hunt, along with Awonder Liang and Christopher Yu, with a myriad of other players in striking distance as well.
And tell us about the standings in the B group. They too had a bunch at the top. Four-way tie for first going into yesterday's round.
But unlike the A group, there's still a couple players in a tie for the lead. Those players are Grandmaster-elect Andy Woodward and International Master Begim Tokhirjonova, both also on 3.5 out of 5 with nice wins yesterday.
Exactly. And tell us about the format for these two round robin.
Of course. Well, as you said, two 10-player round robins. That's the A group and the B group. And in both groups, they have 120 minutes throughout the game with a 30-second increment from move 1. No added time at move 40, and no draw offers allowed.
And our schedule as we're in round 6 today.
Nearing the end. So a reminder to all those viewers out there, on round 9, the final day of the event, we will start 2 hours earlier at 11:30 a.m. You don't want to miss it. And our broadcast will start at 1 or 2 o'clock that day, as opposed to our regular 4 p.m.
Gotcha.
And if you guys want to get involved with the show, you can reach out to us through social media using the hashtag #SummerChessClassic.
Right, stump the masters, if you will.
Yes. We'd love to hear from you, as always, and you can also follow along for yourself at home at uschesschamps.com.
And lay the table for our audience. Tell them about the pairings for this 6th round.
I'm excited. Our leader, Andrew Hong, takes on Mikhail Antipov, and Andrew will have the white pieces in that game, so that'll be one to keep an eye on. Oparin takes on Brkic, Benjamin Bach against Temur Kuybokarov, Christopher Yu plays Nikolas Theodorou, and in our key matchup of the day, we're gonna look at 2 of the chasers. These 2 players a half-point back, Awonder Liang and Ray Robson, are in an interesting position and hoping to catch up to Andrew.
Yeah, this was a very strange open Sicilian, one of those queen takes d4 Sicilians. And after knight f6, bishop e2, knight c6, the queen ends up on the e3 square. So when you have that opening, I don't know what's it's called. It'll come to me a second. Sure. As I was growing up as a kid, I started studying gambits, and I just forgot I think it's called the open game. I'm not.
Yeah, I've heard. I think like center game, open game, something like that.
Center game, I think you're right. So in this particular case, what we're going to do is we're going to transfer the c7 pawn over to e7, and we're going to get a center game with the queens on e3. So it's a very strange Sicilian. I don't know the name of this particular Sicilian. If they called it the center Sicilian, I'm going to hit somebody.
That could be.
Just because.
That would be the first time chess opening names were consistent.
Exactly. Now, after h2, h3, I understand through a little contorted play, I'll put it like that white is trying to achieve what is popularly known as the Maroczy bind. And to make the Maroczy bind, you put your pawn on c4, and the whole intention is to control d5 so black doesn't have this break. You put your rook on d1, and thanks to having a little bit more of a shield forward type of thing, white enjoys more activity.
Of course.
Hence, I cannot for the life of me understand the move knight c3. You're supposed to put your pawn on c4, then you put your knight on c3, then you figure out what you want to do. Knight c3 came, and then rook b1, and again, a little head scratching going on my side
Playing
of it.
some slow moves here with white.
Is he intending b3 and bishop b2? Who knows? Wrong. Like what? Okay. Because of white's extremely passive play, I just don't know how else to describe it. If I'm on the black side, I'm immediately angling for the d5 break. I mean, I start looking at these moves, right away.
In this position, yeah.
Exactly. So the idea is that what you want to do, especially as black, is open up the game for the bishops. The bishops are on the flank, so like blast open the center. So that would be, the thing I'm looking at. I'd also, I'm not opposed to getting an isolated queen pawn in the center with the queen on e3. Looks a little strange.
Doing it the old-fashioned way.
Right, e65, but that's what I'm thinking about. So for me, knight d7 was the second head scratch. I don't understand rook b1. I don't understand knight c3. Knight, why? Why are you going backwards? So Awonder kind of shows that he's adrift. He doesn't really know the position very well either.
Comes to c1 now.
And then we finally get a position I understand, and I'm like really, really happy with myself. And I think, okay, this one is so obvious it doesn't even need explanation. Of course you want to play f4. There's just no question that you want to play f4. There's a drawback.
So let's go king h1 or bishop
e1.
Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
So the idea, if I could call white's strategy as follows, I would say it's restraining. White is restraining the break d5. He's controlling a little bit more of the center. Again, this rook on c1 looks a little peculiar to me. If the pawn is on c4, I'm all in favor. If the pawn's on c2, why am I putting my rook on c1? But this I do understand. You're supposed to play f4. You're supposed to play bishop h4, and you're supposed to play knight d5. And that I get. And so when I'm like, no, my brain hurts. Don't understand it. Okay. Yeah. This I kind of understand, but b3. The first thing I said.
If I can attempt,
please.
Maybe he's having some regrets about not playing c4 when he could.
Right.
And he wants to go b3, move the knight, play c4. But
fair, but then you could do it with the rook on b1.
Yeah.
You can move the knight, you can play c4,
it does seem like white has switched ideas on every tempo for the last 10 moves or something.
Little bit. We're going to keep an eye on this, what we hope will be our marquee matchup, and we talk about the standings for the B group. And what marquee matchups are we going to look at there?
Yeah,
Kayla,
let's
back
see
over to you.
What pairings are in store for us today. So Josiah Stearman plays Akshat Chandra. Brewington Hardaway plays Steven Zierk. Irina Krush plays Alice Lee. That's always a matchup to watch.
Oh, for sure.
Alice, of course, and Irina have faced in the finals of the American Cup.
And it was
like
great.
Every year, so.
Yeah, it was great to watch those finals.
It should be a fun game. And Melik takes on one of our leaders, Andy Woodward. But our key matchup for the day is going to be between Harshit Raja, who has 3 points, just a half point out of the lead, who has white against Begim Tokhirjonova, who leads the pack.
And who is sporting a hat trick. She's just gone on a 3-0 tear. Well, let's jump into that game of Raja and Begim. This will be an easy one to spot. This is a Catalan, and white has given up the dark squared bishop for the knight on b8. Somehow that knight gets to b4, takes. In these Catalan positions, it's really all about the square c7, c5. It's pretty gross, in fact, how crystal clear the strategies for both players are right out of the opening. It's like both players only have one strategy. Yeah. Control the square c5. And I have won quite a number of model games in my career on the white side where I literally did one thing only, one thing very well, which was control the c5 square. I planted a knight on c5, and it was just like death.
It's over.
So if black, conversely, gets in the move c5 and c5 takes d4, he more or less equalizes on the spot. Let's see how the game unwound. Queen e7, e3, e4. A much more common approach, I want to say, is to play rook to c1.
Knight b3, knight c5,
And
like
knight
you were
b3
saying.
and knight c5. But e4 has a nasty threat, e5.
Certainly it does.
And this is one way of trying to control the c5 squares by eliminating the dark square bishop. Once again, and things are getting more and more obvious, if it was black to move with the move c5, it's like instant equality.
Yeah.
If it's white to move and I get to plant a knight on c5, it's instant torture. So here we go, b4.
Okay.
The most natural move in the position, controlling the square c5. Now on a good day, I'll get to play f4 and e5, and I'll use my majority and black's backward pawn on c7.
C-pawn certainly sticks
You don't
out
get
here.
to use your majority. Very good move by Begim, a5, immediately creating counterplay, and even more so, looking to activate the rook. A takes b4, A takes b4 on her agenda, rook e1. Clearly, white's preparing h3, king h2 and f4, or simply
Slowly but surely.
get it up the board. Another important, let's just play a bad move for a moment, h6, f4, queen here. Another nice reason to play rook e1 is
You can just step out of these
I'm
things.
chill.
Yeah, with the pawn on h3, the
Exactly.
king is not so scared of
So,
this knight g4 stuff.
right, so rook e1, by the way, rook e1, preparing f4, ab, ab, and now came a big surprise move for me, was the move c5. I did not expect that. I thought rook...
That square's attacked.
Yes, or defended. I thought rook b4 was an automatic, and you just go from here. I'm not sure what white would have done. Would white have played, for argument's sake, rook b1? Would he have played f4? It's not. I mean, with f4, you've got to analyze. Well,
Yeah, you got to be really careful here.
yeah, I could win a pawn, and it's not clear to me the full compensation. So rook a4. How would you? Why did Begim reject this move? I'm not sure.
I was wondering about queen c5, but
Queen c5, and I took this.
it could also be. I think I do have to take back with the pawn, which I'm not super happy about. But
Right, and then it's sort of like an achievement for black of sorts. You've had to occupy. The pawn is no longer backwards, and maybe on a good day I can just say, okay, I'll play c6, and I'll have a protected pass pawn.
it seems decent for black, but maybe
see.
Begim looked at the c5 move and thought it was also just
Let's
just
have a
good.
look. She did not play rook a4, pardon me. She did play the move c5, and scratching my head, I take a pawn. Knight b3, I defend a pawn.
Certainly.
Rook a4, and now I don't like it for black at all. This has gone wrong. Something is really, really, really bad. What's going on here? This is not good. I'm not a fan.
We're up a pawn.
I'm up a pawn. I don't see what.
Yeah, we're getting some weird noises down here in the house,
Weird noises
but
in the back. It's like somebody turned on a radio or something. The radio came on. It's like a radio alarm.
we'll persist though. So yeah, bishop h3. So there is like e4's attacked, but so is the knight. So
Well,
what are we doing?
Right? I didn't like bishop takes e4 because of the straightforward bishop takes d7.
Take the free piece.
Take the free piece, and you take me, I take you, and guess what? This guy's hanging, and that's not good. So take on e4, perhaps? Rook takes e4, and now we pause because we've got some really, really nice options for white.
Yeah.
Like, I would not like this one bit. One option that I'm finding super chill, like this is pretty easy for me, is you got your pieces pinned up. Your rook on d7, knight on d7 is pinned up. You've got your pieces pinned up on the e file as well. I hate my pieces being pinned up.
Doesn't seem like fun, no.
I mean, that's one.
Also to point out, like we can maybe just play rook d1 and
exactly.
the knight is attacked twice and what are you going to do about it?
Right. Now, maybe after bishop h3, she's put her hope? No, that just doesn't make sense to me. I just...
just queen d1?
Queen d1, and I'm just hitting this knight. I don't know if Begim has missed a tactic here, but... Oh, he played queen d3?
Rather than bishop h3.
Queen d3 also looks
good?
good?
I mean, it's not that bishop e3 was so bad in particular, it's just that...
This is not what...
White's keeping the pawn, and black's pieces don't make as much sense.
There's a back rank mate, so you can't take on c5.
Yeah.
Queen d3 is a simple move, and I like it. Who doesn't like double hits? I like queen d3. Bishop h3 I thought was a little bit more ambitious. I didn't get to finish my thought, is that if on bishop h3 you were required to play bishop c6,
it's just...
then I get to play f4
Oof.
and e5 without giving up anything. There was no knight g4 stuff.
It seems like White's starting to control all of the important squares.
Exactly. And f4 is on White's agenda. Begim a pawn down. And yeesh, I don't see any compensation.
Yeah, if you have to play bishop c6 here, I think it's the same story. f4 is coming, and
f4 plays itself. You stop because queen d6 starts to look a little tempting too.
Queen d6,
right? Yeah, starts to look a little tempting. But hey, I love advancing my pawns with tempo. Push 'em, baby. This looks like White's all day.
Yeah, there's
advantage all day.
Going to be knight d4. There's going to be queen d6.
Exactly.
Just a rook to d1. Like it's every move seems really
concrete
and
forceful.
I wonder what it was. Why c5? Why not your move rook a4?
Rook a4 is just you've played a5 and you created a weakness.
Play a5 to open the a file to activate your rook.
And then you don't hit the weakness. In fact, you turn the weak b pawn into a source of consternation. It's sort of like, wait a minute, that b pawn,
B pawn might get attacked.
It's on the board, Okay, so clearly something really, really, really went wrong here for Begim. We don't understand. I think with rook a4, black was, let's say, equalized.
Yeah, I mean, there's still some moves.
Well, here's my thought once more.
Queen d4 now for black is maybe going to be.
Yeah, if you have to play rook b1, this is my thought. I get in c5.
I was hoping I could play like something like queen b1 maybe instead, aiming for rook c5. But this move queen d4 is what is really giving me pause, maybe more than pause. Maybe it's just simply good for black.
It's not so clear. Seriously, it's not so clear.
But if I go tactically, knight b3?
Exactly. You do have these types of options.
Yeah.
And always the tactics along this diagonal, you can take on b1, and I wouldn't recommend this because there is going to be a discovery.
e5 hits a lot of pieces.
That's right. So, I mean, queen b1, but the inclusive rook a4 provoking queen b1.
Yeah, versus the queen on d3 in the game, it makes a difference.
Okay, here.
So, yeah, Begim has played a move, by the way. She's chosen queen e6 in the game.
Queen e6 in the game.
And so the nice thing about that one, though, is it does stop. It guards h3. So that's one idea to...
I'm trying to tick off the positives,
Yeah.
and you found one. I don't think we should go much further than that.
Maybe
Well, first
the end
of all,
the thought. B5 is attacked?
B5 is a morsel that a very, very tempting morsel. Secondly, knight to D4, a tempo against the queen, like, hello.
Yeah.
What? What am I missing? Rook takes D4. Whew, thank God for, no.
Rook takes D. Yeah, we just take C5.
I just take C5.
You were talking about head scratchers. I just saw Raja literally scratch his head.
Like,
You went,
what is
what's happening?
going on? I mean, I've transferred a weak pawn into an extra pawn. My knight is centralized with tempo. Pawn number 2 is almost in the basket.
Yeah.
Begim's not looking good here. Not looking good. What could you do? Queen A6? If you see something better, you look.
And what happens on knight E5 rather than C5?
Knight E5 rather than knight C5.
Trying to come up with something.
Exactly.
I mean, we can just take on.
May I? I don't know.
And the
You can
knight,
take-
but then the bishop, but then the.
Knight D3.
It's at least complicated here.
I'm not sure it's complicated or not. I do have 2 pawns. I mean, I like it. Unless
Knight takes C5.
yeah, this is easy though. This is so essentially 2 rooks versus a queen. 3 versus 3, the rooks 50-50. They win and they draw.
They don't
4
lose.
4 versus 3, they win.
Not to mention
So,
the pawn on F7 against the late square bishop also
Yeah.
always makes these
So
games
we
a little
think
better.
Begim's in trouble in this
Big trouble.
one. Once again,
maybe we should.
These folks are fighting hard. They're fighting hard for some moolah. Tell
yeah.
us what the prize funds are in these 2 groups.
If we have them today, I think the total prize fund is pretty huge. It's like $23,000 for A, 17 for B. So here we're looking now. First place is $5,000 in the A group, with $4,000 for second, $3,000 for third, and you
Dinner's on first.
there you go. And you get $1,000 for just showing up. So
Participating.
dinner's on last too.
Well, and
At
in
least
the
the dinner for the commentators.
Yes, of course.
And in the B group, it is just $4,000 for first place, pretty similar to the A group prize fund, with $3,000 for second and $2,500 for third. So the difference between first and second there, is $3,000, not bad, but $1,000 makes the difference. So lots to fight for here.
And in the B group, plenty of opportunities to win some norms, get training in, and especially for our ladies, Begim, Irina, and Alice, our women's Olympic team, just getting a chance to cross swords. In truth, the women in the world of chess have few opportunities, few professional opportunities. It's nice to think that, let's go to Chicago Open, or let's go to the World Open, or
Sure.
let's go. But there's entry fees, there's hotel costs. So it's nice to have a tournament where you know your pairings in advance. You play 1 game a day. Your hotel, all your expenses are covered, and you can just really focus. So I think for the ladies, this is a great opportunity in the Cairns Cup, which, as we know, is coming up.
Yeah, the Cairns Cup.
Another opportunity for women.
For a player like Alice Lee, you get to almost quintuple dip here in St. Louis.
Right.
She's in the junior girls.
Yes.
She's in the U.S. Women's Championship.
Yes.
She's in the Summer Classic. She's in the American Cup Women's.
Which she won.
And maybe it's only 4.
But
Or is she in the Cairns Cup as well?
Yes, she is.
Well, that's 5.
There's a quintuple.
Lots of opportunities here in St. Louis.
Dipping.
And yeah, as you were mentioning, our U.S. Women's Olympiad team had a little training camp prior to the Classic, and I think it's a great opportunity. They get to, go to the camp, learn all the theory, do some training, and then put it to practice here in the Classic.
Exactly. And they love that training as well. Big shout out to Darush Schwertz and Alex Onishuk, who were the doing the presentation. The master of honors. They're doing the presentations for the ladies.
So speaking of them, maybe we should check in on our matchup between Irina and Alice.
Exactly. As I came on air, unfortunately for I'm in the wrong group. Sorry, apologies. Unfortunately for Alice, she is lost. Full stop. End of story. She's been fighting. She's an unbelievable fighter, but she just got into an opening that was an absolute, complete, unmitigated disaster. I mean, I cannot put it any other way.
Not sure I've seen a worse position.
So essentially, what's going on here, and this is a very important way of understanding the game, is we have a reverse Benoni. That doesn't really give us anything to say, but it basically goes like this. Black's advantage is in the center.
Yes.
And on the king side. It's very important to add that on. And on the king side. White's advantage is on the queen side. We have a pressure there. So, do not play in my sandbox.
Exactly, yeah.
This move, A5, is a mistake. This move, C5, is egregious. Okay. So when you play the move A5 and you allow me to play the move B5, you're actually helping me. You're helping me. You've opened up a diagonal. When you play the move C5, you're helping me even more because you've opened up the B file. So now with two
all
moves,
my pieces can align on B7.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In 2 moves, you've opened up my sandbox, you've opened up a diagonal, you've opened up a file, and just as you were about to say, there's going to be a harmonic convergence on the B7 square. Nothing you've really done in these last few moves as black is enhanced your powers in the center. The knight on C6, I'll give you that. It's okay. But that's a very, very small achievement compared to what white has achieved. And Alice compounded it even worse with the move knight A7. After this, she really is dead lost. It's like there's nothing to talk about anymore. So
yeah, I mean, it might have already been there, though. I mean, if you don't play something like knight A7, it's tough to meet bishop A3 with knight D6 ideas.
Sure.
Not to like knight G5, knight E4. It's
okay.
It's already. I think it's just already really bad.
It is bad, but it's not gone.
Okay.
With her next move, it's gone. So the really weird part about this position is white has too many pieces. The knight on B5 is great, except it's in the way. The rook would rather be on B5.
Rook on B1 hits that square.
So the only thing that black can do to possibly, and it's a very small possibility, to save herself is to leave the knight on B5. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to play the move knight B4. What is my idea? My idea is very, very simple. I want to play knight on E7 to C6. I want to play rook E8. I want to play in the center. Yeah. If you play A3...
then we've got a different square.
Well, not just that, but if you play A3, you've taken away bishop A3, the power of the bishop on A3. So if you play A3, I'm going to play knight to A6. I'm going to play knight to C6. On a good day, I'm going to play knight to C5. And I'm going to try to forget that I helped white enormously. The knight on B5 is powerful, but at least the B file's closed.
Yeah, you're holding on, you're finding squares.
Right.
And white does have some clunkiness to figure out. But
knight A7, double question mark strategically, and now it's gone. Now it's a full splat because all of white's pieces will reach a peak power very, very quickly. It continued. Queen c7, bishop a3, and the hits keep coming. Knight to g5. Idea as simple as that. Knight to e4 to d6. By the way, don't forget my bishop on b7. You were mentioning a harmonic convergence. Rook to d8. Queen to b3.
You don't have to think with white.
All the moves they play themselves so simple. Rook b1, again, what's there to think about? h6, what's there to think about? And here is actually a very nice move, and I really want to emphasize that I like, in a certain way, Arena's play has been easy.
Yep.
But in another way, this move makes it model. You're using literally all the queenside squares that you can, the b file, the c5 square, the long diagonal from h1, and then you start to think, oh my gosh, I'm going to go bishop b6, and oh, by the way, don't forget, I can even go queen a3 takes a4. If I'm bored, oh, it's so bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just get a bad position, and it just plays itself.
You get a bad position, and then you lose.
And then you lose.
Not every time, but sometimes it happens. So.
I like that. My friend Jeremy Silman, he had this great line. Chess is cruel. And then you die. Wow. White's a pawn up, but even worse, all the harmony in the position, everything, all of the pieces are flowing in white's favor. So I suppose the line, is there a line to look at? I don't know.
Yeah.
Rook takes?
I mean, we can try a tactic, but there is no tactic, so it's just...
There's no tactics.
Yeah.
Rook takes.
And we take. And
Queen takes. And
yep.
that's pretty
good game.
much. Thank you very much for playing. Not terrible. Not terrible at all. Pawn takes. I'd love to have a pawn on c6.
Yeah, and we might pick up an a pawn too.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, again, this was a bad opening. Alice came out of the opening bad, but she made it because she doesn't understand the strategic requirements of the Benoni. You don't play a5, you don't play c5. You're playing on the wrong side of the board.
And okay, well, I will say that I think sometimes this happens. Now, Alice, obviously a better chess player than I.
Sure.
But you see these reverse Benoni positions, and in so many lines, black plays a5 to prevent b4.
Right.
And so you get used to seeing pawn a5 is something you do in these positions.
Right.
But of course, after b4 is on the board,
right,
maybe the point isn't there. The point was to try and limit the play on the queen side, but this opens things up.
What you referencing exactly what you said. In this position, after castles, Alice played the move e5, and to what you're saying is that, ooh, I've already got my pawn on d4. This is great. What is white trying to achieve? Oh, I know. White is trying to achieve move b4. So a5 is a good move, preventing that. Knight c6, d3 is probably even a better sequence to try to maintain the pawn on b4. But then to your point is that once white has played b4, you got to stop yourself
right, yeah,
from playing a5 and or knight c6. You got to go, no, going in the wrong direction. So how should black play this position? Well, in my opinion, it's pretty
castle.
Pretty simple. Castle. I don't know. Let's say this is a reasonable move. You can tell me. I'll play here. What do you think is a reasonable move?
Maybe I'll go knight b3.
Okay, exactly. Perfect. And let me go g5.
Yeah.
So here again, what I'm trying to say is I want to play in my sandbox.
To the king side.
And in the center.
And my big issue, I get these positions with black sometimes. I always rush f5. But eventually you play f5.
Slowly.
You got to be sure
surely.
of your
Yeah,
light squares,
that's what you want to do. And again, it's not like this. You could play a4. Let's just play a move like a4. Let's play. You could get. Notice what I'm doing is I'm trying to not let you open up the queen side. So I'm literally playing a position so that if you play a6, I want to play b6.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you play c5, I want to get out of the way so that you can't open it up with c6. And what I want to do, and again, it's a slow thing, is I want to attack you.
Yeah.
I mean, I admit, it's hard to sack White's king when you've got a fortress there.
Yeah, it's not just about the king. You have more space in the center and on the king's side, so you just keep pushing that space until white runs out of squares.
But you start to see really where everything is wrong.
Yeah,
it's
just
all
over.
of White's pieces. There's no attack in the center. There's no attack on the king's side. In fact, there's no black pieces on the king's side. And the fact that Irina won a pawn, and oops, I think that's our analysis. Irina won a pawn.
Alice is sitting here
and she's just saying,
yeah,
oops, and this is oops. It's a good lesson. I mean, I think that
better it happens here than in the Olympiad.
Right, exactly. It's not only that, but it's one of those things where reverse Benoni positions come from all kinds of things. Even e4, you can get these reverse type of Benoni. It's just it's good to have a strategic knowledge of how to handle the middle games as white, how to handle the middle games as black, and hopefully, regardless of the result, Alice will come away from this going, I did something wrong. I don't want to do that again.
Sometimes you have those games where it's like, I don't know much, but I know I'm never going to lose like that again. Because that was miserable.
Miserable. We had some fun coming into our broadcast. For those of you who are joining us late, shame on you. For those who have been enjoying our broadcast, thank you. Tell your friends where you're hanging out. We were having some fun on the game of Akshot. He just threw everything at the king side. And I thought that this was a kind of a funny moment right here. I think a lot of people would have reached for their bishop.
It's attacked.
And said, okay, bishop f5, I'll probably play for rook e1, rook e8, and I'll attack the e3 pawn. Akshot entombed his own bishop with the move f5.
Yeah, Akshot taking no days off. He was the last game to finish yesterday in that wild game against Steven Zierk.
Yep.
Seems like with the black pieces, he plays for the kill.
Rambunctiously. f5, entombing his own bishop. Now, everyone can see that takes, discover check, followed by queen takes e3, and, it's shake and bake time. Black is getting a great attack and winning pawns in the process. But the problem that I don't know to what depth Akshot. This is a great move, a really nice one. Rook to e1, and essentially White says, I'm going to take the bishop on my terms.
That's the thing about f5s. It also takes away the retreat square.
Right. So. Now, if you let me play, I don't know, bishop f1 takes, followed by king e3, king g1, I'll be perfectly safe. I've got two bishops guarding my king, and my pawn shield hasn't been compromised. No choice. You gotta go, and then White asks, so where's the win? Takes on the board. Now, the desirable takes check, king g1, rook f2, bishop to g4. I wanted to prevent hakimati.
Of course. And you can't go to f3 because the pawn is pinned, so...
Yes, it's a choice between bishop f1 and, here, this. Bishop f1 and...
bishop g4.
Bishop g4. I thought just bishop g4, not because I want to be active or anything like that. I just wanted to take away the queen do I say, the queen's
vision.
Yeah, I don't know. But if you do want to play bishop f1, that's perfectly okay too. Because
I like your move. But
yeah, I'm
Rook
thinking
A2?
rook a2. Yes,
We're
exactly.
one move away.
We're just one move away, and the attack will be completely stymied. I don't see it. Do you?
So not really. I mean, so knight f4 makes threats, but we can just take, and then I don't think we stopped. Yeah,
Pause for a second because I'm just. Oh, rook takes g2.
Yes, I was going to take f4.
Of course. Apologies. This would be the most desirable move.
Ah, okay.
Rook takes g2. Knight.
Oh,
I'm confusing myself. Maybe I am. Yeah.
I
was thinking. You know,
rook f8 there. Maybe.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Exactly. I'm confusing myself. I would love to take on e3, but probably this is the much more sane.
I wasn't so
option,
ambitious.
Right. Queen takes.
Well, now rook a2 doesn't come with a threat, right? Because we're not going to take on f2. So maybe instead we should try some other way.
Well, okay. I'm not sure I see a threat for the moment.
So if I play rook f8,
Certainly. And check.
king h8.
Right. And now I don't want to have to deal with e2. So I'm looking at queen. Oh,
What if I
yes.
play
Now
e2?
Anyway, e2 anyway, and you've got it.
This
is good. Okay, so that does mean, after bishop takes, queen takes, that I should play rook a1.
And
rook f8.
Rook f8, I guess.
Still. And now let me force a crisis. Let me just play e4 with the attempt of playing queen takes e3.
So if I go queen g3, you have rook takes e3? Because if you play queen takes, I have rook takes f1.
Queen takes, rook takes e1, and my queen, which is guarded by my rook, the rook is forced away, and as you say, got me. So rook takes e3 is forced.
But
good.
It's also good, right?
Forced and good. That is.
And have you stopped my e2 threat?
Let's have a look. So
now
e2,
your queen guards along the third rank,
and that's very useful. That is very useful. I think no more. Why are we guarding along the third rank? No more rook takes g2, queen g3 ideas. I think we've got it. I think that's the way to go.
What's our life position? Where are we thinking here?
Let me refresh.
So Josiah's made his bed. He took the piece, and now Akshat's calculating these lines, maybe seeing that they're not so clear.
So
by the way, that was just bishop f1. There is also this bishop g4 move.
Exactly.
Requires a lot of thought.
This whole line with this has that quality of that whiff of forcedness.
Yeah.
You know, there was this wonderful book, Genius in Chess. And I'm thinking of the author's name. I see his face, can't place his name. Genius in Chess, and he explained a word that doesn't get the prominence it deserves, but the word was flow. And there's this idea of a flow, and you're just kind of like a leaf on a river, and you're just carried by this flow. And this line that we're looking at has a flow to it, and the flow is a dead end for black.
Yeah, the river.
So we're going to get to this position, and we're going to look at another possibility. The other possibility is f3.
I'm not a believer in this one, though.
No. For certain, the whole concept is clearly we want to open up the F file. So a move like bishop takes F. Oh, shoot.
It's not even legal.
It's not even legal.
Yeah.
I wanted to play D5 takes E4, and the software, what's wrong with this software? It won't allow me to play D5 takes E. And no F3, no. So then we're really back to the flow. What? Oh. Is there? No.
No moves yet?
There is no other moves. So it has to be takes.
King G1.
Now, Rook F2 didn't bring us any success. Knight F4?
So the
looks peculiar.
Knight H3 threat, but
Queen G2 mate threat?
Queen G2 is also a threat, yeah.
Yeah, much more severe. Here,
yeah, Bishop G4 is still there. Also, I don't immediately see why after Bishop takes F4 this would be a better version for Black either.
Yes. So the idea is that in this case, I'm coming up with an instantaneous threat.
So Bishop F3 is still there.
Once again, the desirable move is illegal. Bishop F3. You know how many times I've been playing for this?
Here maybe there are some issues. Bishop F3, Queen G3 threatens a few things, but maybe Rook E3 solves it all.
Yeah,
Sorry,
once again, that forced move turns out to be a really good one. We started with Rook F2, and again, that sure looked like the most forcing. Bishop F1, Rook, and we went Rook A1, and here we played Knight F4. I mean,
yeah.
I just don't see anything. And we
got to here and said,
what do I
Queen
do now,
G3 is
boss?
Rook E3.
Yep.
Pawn E2 was, what's happening?
Well, let's have a look.
Yeah.
Pawn F2. We were saying that the queen
Guards here,
so we don't have any issues with Rook G2 anymore, but let me just double check just to be sure.
2, King H1.
And
It's all covered.
we ran out of firewood. We ran out. We sacrificed the house, and there was nothing left. Nothing left. We'll keep an eye on this one. Where would we like to go?
Maybe we should check in on our leaders, because I don't think we've seen Andy's game or Andrew's game.
All right.
So Andrew Hong leading in the A group, and Andy Woodward tied for the lead in the B group.
When he was playing against Melik set, and I thought the game was petering out to a draw quite some time ago. When I picked up, we were just coming on air, and it was essentially, yes, this position. And I thought that this was leading to a draw. The two bishops, unfortunately, aren't, if the D5 pawn and the D4 pawn were removed, then the bishops would have more gravitas. There would be
say.
bishop C4 check and bishop D4. As it was, I thought that Andy was going to be making a easy draw.
And now it's just opposite colored bishops as well.
And
The weakness is defended.
and that's it.
Not much more to say.
Draw going on there in Andrew's game. Let me, sorry, I want to go to a different tab. And he's at the top. I've seen Michael play this twice in this tournament, and it's a pretty hilarious line, and he loves doing it, and that is this move. Now, I like trailblazers, don't get me wrong. I like trailblazers and, Mazel Tov and all of the rest for those guys that do their thing. But there are reasons why the top 10 players in the world do not play in 97. If this was the anecdote, trust me, like every computer world championship match would be playing 97. There's something wrong with knight e7. It breaks some cardinal rules here. Now there is a cheapo. There is a trick. You are not blundering the e5 pawn. Knight takes pawn. This is not. I'm threatening queen a5 check, and picking up a piece. Now, for those of you, what is the name of that? I think it's called the Cochrane Gambit.
From the Petrov.
From the Petrov. Now, this may be an improved Cochrane Gambit for white, but it still looks dubious.
Blacks up a piece.
For 2 pawns and a compromised king. Yeah, it feels like, no. I mean, but even here, I would say, it's there's something to be worried about. Anyway, knight e7.
It's good enough that some people would do it voluntarily.
Right. Andrew played d4, much more sensible, logical move, and got himself into a position where, okay, he's a smidge better. And I think you could say after bishop e6, the likelihood of a draw is extremely high, and it's probably going to be a draw, but Black still has to prove things. I mean, he doesn't have ideal development. Like
Not
I could
developed,
play,
king still
yeah,
little
knight
airy.
a3, bishop e3. White might be a smidge, but Andrew did something I was really surprised with. He played rook e1, a move I don't like. Knight takes d3, bishop and knight c3, very clever.
Whoa.
Bishop e6 takes. He gave up 2 bishops in an open position.
It's pretty big.
And he gave himself a weakness on d3. So maybe this is theory, but I don't like it. I'm just saying I don't like it. But I really don't like what Michael did now. So in my view, at this exact moment, like every move, every tempo is huge. It's absolutely critical.
Let's go. Let's move the knight, move the bishop, castle the king.
It is ASAP, and don't even. That's it. That's what you want to do. So I like anchored pieces.
Of course.
So for me, this move
Knight d5
is the way to go. Now, I can imagine white playing bishop to g5. I can imagine white playing knight to g5. I can imagine you playing knight to e4. But okay, what I'm saying is my next moves are bishop e7 and castles. And yeah, you can win back you can go knight to g5. You can go to knight to d4. You can take. I will likely capture with the pawn, but my king will be safe on g8. I'll have a weak pawn on e6, you'll have a weak pawn on d3, and let's go.
Yeah.
Okay, end of story. I've equalized. This
h6.
No, it's not just h6. It's the follow-up.
h6, g5.
Right, and he's done this twice. He did it against Ray Robson.
Yeah.
And he's doing it today. And he voluntarily creates weaknesses on the king side. And I just shake my head and I go, okay, I know these players, especially Michael, he loves working with chess engines, and he's a hard worker.
Yes.
So I have to believe that this is engine approved.
Okay.
And I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, I don't get it. I'm taking a weakness, I'm taking the pawn, and this is where I left it before we came on broadcast. And I'm really going, there's nothing about this position I like for black. I'm a pawn down. My king isn't really safe.
Nope, it's not.
I mean,
a7's attacked, king b8 would lose a queen. So...
Right? I mean, what's going on? And that one was a hard move to guess.
Yeah, no, I thought it was all for the bishops, but
right?
The bishops are gone now.
And I'm like...
And bishop f4, queen a5, queen c7, looks like
that
checkmate.
rook b1, rook b4, Queen d4. Okay. By the way, I believe we have a result.
Yep, so Andy Woodward in the B group has officially drawn his game against Melik as expected.
Yes.
That end game was very near the end.
Yeah, that was bishops of opposite color. Queen d4. Okay, an indication to me that Andrew has concerns. He has concerns about the H file, and when do we seek a trade of queens is when our king is vulnerable.
Yeah.
When we don't want to trade queens is when our opponent's king is vulnerable. Andy has evaluated this position, I don't know if he's right or wrong, as black's king is safer than white's king. He played the move queen d4, which is okay, but we were thinking that, well, with rook b1 and bishop f4 and queen, I mean, if we get our moves in, rook b1, bishop f4, queen a5, oops, queen a, hey, maybe even queen a6.
Why not? Let's go.
Like, I would be a little bit afraid of queen takes d3, so I might want to start with the move rook d4. Like, where was that queen going to go?
You were highlighting h2 might be a problem, but I think we're the ones in control of the dark squares.
For the time being, yeah. I mean,
we should be okay over there.
If you put something in the way, well, I'm going to barrage it. At the moment, I don't see queen h6, h1 mate on the board. Am I missing something here, Caleb? Because
this looks pretty good.
This looks really good.
So, I mean, if you just go queen c7, now bishop f4 is...
Queen c7. I'm the one bullying black's queen around the board.
Absolutely.
And the beautiful part about bishop f4 is I can plug up the h file in case you really get rambunctious and invest. Okay, queen d4, a little bit of a surprise move for us. Queen d4, knight f5.
Okay.
Okay, I just...
Queen
a7, queen d... Holy smokes, the game just blowed up. Hold on, maybe I'm winning with queen a8 check?
That doesn't sound far off, but rook b4 instead.
Sorry, just quickly, where do we go with the queen?
If I go king c7?
By the way, king c7 only move. Otherwise, I'm playing knight check, taking a rook, and taking your queen.
Absolutely.
So king c7 is box. Bishop. Oh.
Knight d6.
Knight d6 is just in time. Thank you. Knight d6, of course. Momentary blindness. Rook b4, very good move. You get your rook, which is under attack. You're threatening mate in 1.
Really doesn't feel like it works for black.
Knight d6. Sorry, let me refresh my board. I think we're up to date. This feels wrong.
Yeah. What was so
on many levels?
What was so bad about just trading the queens?
It looks to me like white has a very fierce attack here in the position. He eschewed the rook with the move. He's not interested in exchange, and who can blame him in this position? But just knight b5. That must be what he... rook b1 has... resigns all over it, but I think it's knight b5.
Well, hold on again.
No.
Your queen a8 move is...
Now. Okay.
Oh, but maybe,
Just finely tuned.
And white's queen is also somehow running out of squares.
That's hilarious. Which is why Andrew has played the move bishop f4 and not the move rook b1, because now, in his mind's eye, he wants to checkmate in this fashion. You can't walk to this square because knight e5 check forks as a royal fork, and I get to give up my queen. But you walk into the epaulet mate in this fashion. So the move bishop f4 is actually threatening to win on the spot with queen a8 check. By the way, rook takes b7 is also
on tap.
this looks terrible. I mean, terrible. Couple
Trying to find some way forward, but it's not appearing.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we just play knight b5, then you've got queen b8 and queen b7 and queen c6, and I just lost all my pawns.
Yes.
Not to mention knight e5,
which is the real issue there, the real deal that hurts. Yeah, it looks like a resigns, and just looking at the body language, Andrew is like, next, and Michael is, oh dear. Michael looking around like, what the heck? And again, h6, g5, self-inflicted weaknesses, lost a pawn and put his king in danger on the queen side. Bishop takes c3.
So,
some very strange decisions in this game.
There is a mate threat in the current position?
Yes.
Okay. One more time. The threat after bishop f4 is...
Check. Check.
Queen a8. Yeah.
King c7.
And check. So what if I go queen h7, just blindly ignoring you? I'm going to try and attack you.
Exactly. And that was what I was pointing out, was the beautiful part about the bishop on f4 is it gives me this way of plugging up the h file. Now, I might have a forced mate with, the checks and stuff, but if I don't, I can play knight h2 and win the game by prepping bishop f4. Okay, so.
Yeah, it doesn't look good.
It does not look good. In fact, it looks grim.
I think it's just too bad this time.
Yeah.
So maybe we can check in on some other games as well.
Please. While we're here, let's just take a look.
So our key matchup was Awonder Ray.
Okay. It's funny how I was saying that your breakout is d5.
Yeah.
And somehow the players got around to it, but in the
Took him some time.
Strangest fashion. Why White's pawn is on c4, only Awonder can explain. E6. Now, a moment ago, what I had wanted to do as White, and I thought it was an automatic, was to play bishop e1. If you play as in the game e6, f4, we can understand what's going on here.
Playing against d5.
Exactly. I'm playing...
Using the half-open file.
That's it. Exactly right. And then this bishop, one day, and on a good day, will come out whether to g3, f2, or h4, depending on circumstance. By the way, I've got knight b5 in my pocket if I really want to put a lot of pressure on the d6 pawn. He did not do this. He played b3, e6.
I mean, like I said, I think he's trying to play for c4. I think that's what it is. But it's...
Knight a4. Okay, I don't get that. I'm always trying to centralize my pieces. Bishop e1 once again. In this particular case, it's a little bit awkward, I know, because suddenly I've given some tempi to for Black to rearrange his pieces. Knight a4. Oh dear. I don't like what Awonder has done. d5. Sorry, I'm beginning to think that White is lost. I love this bishop.
Sure.
I love this bishop very, very, very much. I love the bishop so much, I don't want to block its diagonal.
Yeah.
In fact, on the contrary, I want to open the bishop's diagonal. So why didn't I play knight d4 with...
What if I play c4?
c4. This is what I want. f5. I want to open this diagonal.
It feels like we're about 7 tempi slower than we should be with white.
Maybe more. Because F4, F3.
F3 is pretty good.
Queen H5 is really, really good.
So pretty nice.
And my goodness.
So what if I start to try and bail after F5 and I play something like
knight D4, C4, F5.
Just bishop C3.
Bishop C3.
If you want to take my pawn, you can take my pawn. If you want to take my bishop, you can do anything you want. I'm just trying to keep it together.
Yeah, and I don't think you are. Sadly, I think it's just splat, unfortunately, for
D3.
For white. Just one of those splats.
Yeah.
And the
It's not
problem
good.
is the knight is on A4. There's like a drift towards the queen side, and you can see that, for example, if you take queen G5
is a check.
There's nobody really guarding the king.
Nobody home.
And this guy, as soon as I play rook takes F3, is going to be a menace.
The knight on A4 is not a great defender.
Not a great defender. Probably I would like to keep this bishop as well. If you play king here, I'd probably,
H2.
look to queen H5. This feels it's all gone wrong. Now, I'm not criticizing D5, don't get me wrong. D5 is the type of break that black likes. It just strikes me as this might be opportunity to really strike on the king side. Knight D4, F5. Knight D4 I liked because it was a gain of tempo. F5 I like. D5, let's see what happened. I feel like Awonder might be okay now. Still, a quick question. Let's just have a look-see.
Sure.
I want to bail out, essentially, is what I want to do. I want to bail out with forcing lines that get rid of these attackers.
It's hard to find a response to that move, actually. Bishop D4, I think white is intending just to capture the rook.
I do indeed want to do that. Takes. Takes? Yes?
Not a lot of squares on the 8th rank. I can go bishop D6, maybe? Or, rook E8 makes a threat.
It does.
Pretty big threat.
It is.
Did white win?
I'm not sure yet.
Now if...
Trembling hands. Still don't see it quite yet.
King now G7.
That was a very bizarre sequence of moves.
Yeah.
I'm not sure we played it all very well, but it starts with bishop b4, and I think your move bishop to d4, by the way, was best. What else to say? I wanted to take.
Right.
Wanted to take. Now, if you take my rook, my presumption was wrong. I was going to play bishop to d6, but my presumption, you take my rook, and that's just black is doing fine.
Yeah, and, well, black might end up a pawn at the end of the
Exactly.
day. So.
Exactly. So if I'm not winning an exchange, rook takes? Is there a...
Well, is b5 winning?
b5 is crazy line.
Yeah.
One more of these crazy lines where, you hit my rook, I hit your queen, but I also hit a queen and a rook. By the way,
Tough to say.
Well, is e5 hanging? So takes.
Yeah, rook takes.
Queen takes. Now, don't forget, very, very importantly, that I do defend the bishop. My bishop defends the rook on d1.
Yes.
Very importantly, and that.
I was wondering if maybe rook d6 instead of ba4.
Sure. So how did we get here?
Rook takes c6, queen e5, rook d6.
Now here I can take a pawn, and I'm 2 minor pieces for the queen. But here I start to think about these moves. Probably you do defend this position. It's close, though.
It's very close.
It's very close. I don't think this is what Ray, you know, his king is getting an inspection. Let's go in.
Nothing but headaches.
I don't want an inspection.
So maybe not b5.
Maybe not.
Just take back.
b5. Okay, so we do have a threat. Takes. Rook. I don't know.
Okay, queen f6 seems like a step towards normalcy.
Right, you get out of all of the barrage of. But here again, the attack that I thought was brewing against White's king feels like, whew,
yeah,
you know, like I'm no longer getting sliced and diced on the diagonal, and something of this position. My knight's in play, my king's got a little protection going on. And
seems like double-edged.
Yeah, a 3-result game.
5 is there. And...
3-result game. If we go back to this moment right here where I saw this move knight d4, I don't think at all that we're looking at a 3-result game. I think you're just going to get killed.
I wonder about c3 instead of c4. And I want to go for similar positions, but I want to, have some more say. So.
Okay. So here, I think you're lost. And I think it's pretty obvious why your knight on a4. Put your knight on d3, Caleb. Put your knight on g4. You know what I mean. So whether it's f5 or whether it's queen h4, the initiative is in black's hands.
100%.
Yeah, 100%.
If I could get a couple tempi,
right,
then I'm in there, but
right.
I don't know if I have it. So if I play knight b2,
e4 is hanging.
I don't care.
What?
I don't see a way to not lose my stuff.
You know, my whole life I live for winning a pawn, and when you said I don't care, that's like a tasering statement.
It's not that I don't care. It's just that I have too many other things to care about. I can't keep the pawn, and I just wanted to go knight c4. And
knight c4.
I'm by no means at all happy, but
you don't think
getting my pieces towards the game. I think it might be lost.
Yeah,
but.
I do too. Yeah, this is not. I mean, you compare this position where black is enjoying the proceedings to the game position where
it's
rook takes c4, bishop b4 is a 3-result game.
Complete chaos. Yeah.
Right. It's not intuitively obvious to me that black's better. The other position, I don't need any intuition. I just know that the bishops are working magic. We'll keep an eye on this game. Again, Ray is the #1 seed in the field, although he is half a point out of first, right?
Yeah, soon to be a full point, unless Antipov rustles something up.
Let us see how Andrew is finishing the game.
Bishop f4, queen takes c3.
Now, this move is beyond understanding.
Well, it steps out of the knight e5 fork. So now if the queen check line happens, we'll go...
I meant White's move.
Oh, yeah.
This move is beyond understanding. Rook on b4 to b1. I think...
Why not the other one?
Yeah. I think if you gave this position to 1,000 Grandmasters, those 1,000 Grandmasters would be reaching for their A rook. And reaching for the b7 pawn
Yeah.
Now, he must have been worried about something on the first rank.
So queen takes
Like-
b4, knight b5, but there's queen b8.
In every case. And queen b7, and then we can deal with the back rank mate issues. So again, rook b1, there must be some queen b4. We're missing something. I'm blind as a bat. Help, Spock.
It's not easy.
I mean, it
Not
looks like
easy to
bishop
come up
takes
with it here.
d6 and rook takes b7 is just, I mean, how this isn't like plus 12 or something on a hyperscale.
Black doesn't have attackers, and black doesn't have defenders. Black has a
Zip,
piece on
zero,
e6 and
nada.
a piece on d8 that don't do a whole lot, and queen's floating and
What am I
doesn't
missing?
seem like it.
Rook h1.
There's no queen
h8.
f3. There's no anything. Like the h file, you always can block, like you were saying.
That's a beautiful bailout. Wow. Well, we'll leave this for another. People who are stronger and better. Rook b1.
Well, it's still possible that Andrew's just winning. His position's
Anyway.
really good. So maybe we'll have a chance to ask him about it today.
Let's
but-
hope so. Well, by the way, Andrew was looking very, very, very satisfied, as if, like I saw your trick and I called your bluff. What are you going to do about bishop takes d6?
Yeah, I
and
mean, it's a
queen
fair
takes
point.
d7?
I still don't see moves for black.
I didn't see moves for black before either. But yes, rook b1 on the board, and white's attack looks decisive. We can definitely call that.
Yeah.
Knight b5, you mentioned, and then I think that was a very important point. In many of these lines, we had knight e5 check, which was forking the king. So if the queen was on d3, knight e5 forks the king and the queen. I don't believe it, of course, not at all. But at least he took on c3 with a gain of tempo to get his queen out of the way.
So here's one thing. Let's
Yeah.
say that position you have on the board.
Yep,
If I play the move bishop e5,
winning,
I win.
absolutely.
But if white's rook were on b4, if the rooks were on b4 and b1, after bishop e5, I could take on b4.
Right.
So that's one line at least.
That
where
we might please please ourselves by saying, in this case, in this particular case, we do have a threat from black's point of view. Black does have a threat. Queen takes b4, and thanks to the back rank mate, we're stirring the pot. That's not to say that white's
Yeah,
not
yeah,
winning
like,
here
it's not-
with a
it's not a
thousand
lot,
different moves, but yeah, wow, interesting position.
Looks very
and oops, excuse me, that wasn't. Whoa, that's not what I wanted. I apologize. I'm doing something wrong. Let me just. I gotcha. Okay, control, refresh.
Back in action. King d7. Time to run.
A good king leads his army into battle. Okay, so in these positions, what's very common in chess is that all of the people in the playing hall come and look at your game, and they go, ugh, bishop e5. That's a very cruel move.
one
Rook
of the
b7
things.
on the agenda. For white. This looks terrible, by the way. We have a result of
Yes. In this A group, Grigoriy Oparin and Ante Brkic have drawn their game.
It was a wonderful criticism that Nikolai Minev received. So Nikolai Minev was my trainer. He's an international master from Bulgaria. He played first board for the Bulgarian team. He was the editor of a Bulgarian national chess magazine, and he's a top player, but in those days it was very hard to get Grandmaster norms, and even though he deserved the Grandmaster title, you draw about Podvinik, he's pretty good. And he won the Bulgarian championship numerous times, and he was so excited. He got invited to the Soviet Union. Got invited to the Soviet Union and played in this massive tournament with all of the top grandmasters of the world, including the Soviets, of course, and it was one of these massive, ridiculous tournaments, 18-player round robin.
Oh,
and,
God.
oh, my God, they last, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
And what Nikolai did is one game he was playing the Dutch, in the next game Benoni, in the next game Slav, E4,
Mixing
D4,
it all up.
C4. He was playing everything. And he finished in the middle of the field. World champion, Vasily Smyslov, came to him. And he's eating his dinner, everything's nice, and suddenly the world champion's in his face. Young man, says the world champion to Nikolai. What are you doing?
Eating dinner?
What do you mean? All my life, I played Slav defense, and I became world champion. Mm-hmm. What are you trying to achieve by playing every opening under the sun? In those days, it was this idea that you must specialize, and you better know your stuff inside and out. You just knew this is right, this is wrong, this is right, this end game is good for me, this end game is bad for me, I got to avoid this, and da-da-da-da. What is Grigoriy doing? On one game, he plays E4, he plays the open Sicilian, he sacrifices a pawn.
Well, I would
the
say
next
this
game,
is history.
He's playing a Catalan, where he
is...
sacrifices a pawn in the Catalan. Young man, what are you trying to achieve? What are you doing?
History's on Oparin's side here. I think all the top GMs these days do a little bit of everything. They like to mix it up. The value of surprising your opponent at the board is huge with computers these days.
Okay, if you say so.
I'm not saying it worked out for him this time.
I think this opening, this position, is bad.
Okay.
For white.
Okay.
No. Let me repeat myself. This position is bad for white. Why? You're playing a Catalan. You put the pawn back on E2. You put your knight on E5. Everybody's happy. No. What you did in this game as white is you put your pawn on E4. Why is that a bad thing? Well, you put your bishop on G2.
Okay.
So you just voluntarily closed off your bishop. Next thing, and we talked about this in Begim's game. In Begim's game, the key square was control of the C5 square. So you lost control of the C5 square and you put your pawn on E4. Now, I'm not going to be critical of knight E4. Knight E4 looks like just a very good move, and I think black is a little bit better. But I am absolutely sure, beyond any shadows of a doubt, based on my conversations with Smyslov, you got to know your stuff. I know the Catalan. After the move C5, black is for choice. You see the move C5. What's your immediate reaction? What would you like to do as white?
Step in a time machine, I guess.
Well, yeah. How do you do? What would you do? What would you do? What would you do?
Probably. So I don't want to play E5 because I give up the D5 square. I don't want to take it because my knight on C4 is pinned and ugly.
Knight takes.
It's not good.
By the way, this bishop is on an open diagonal. This bishop is on an open diagonal. This bishop, not on an open diagonal. Okay.
Yeah, maybe rook D1.
Rook D1. Now we're talking. Rook D1. Okay, let's go. Bam.
Yeah, it hurts. It hurts.
Yeah,
I guess I'm playing B3. I guess. And I'll take with the pawn.
And let's go.
And now I'll go e5. You still have knight d5.
I still have knight d5.
If rook takes d4.
You're hanging in there, not by much, but you're hanging in there a little bit.
Yeah. Play some chess here.
No.
No more chess?
No more chess.
All right.
So the Catalan bishop, that diagonal has been kind of open, but if you imagine my knight coming to c3 and my rook coming to d8, the bishop on g2 will be on an empty diagonal, so it won't really work. The bishop on g7 kind of tethers the knight a little bit somewhat. But for me, the pawn on c4 is really the magnet. I'm going to be playing knight c3, rook c8, and bishop takes c4, you know, pronto. So, you know, I want to give myself, you know, play. I don't want to be reacting. We do have a result.
Yeah, I think Andrew didn't win that game as expected. So hopefully we can get him in the studio to
So apologies to Grigoriy. I think he's misplayed the Catalan. I think he would be quite seriously worse after this. Well, seriously worse. Just, you know, black,
on the back foot.
Yeah, black is the one dictating the action. Knight takes e4, not a bad move. Queen c2, knight d5. Okay, you're going to win this pawn back on c6, but big deal. Knight d5, queen takes c6. Yeah, and white more or less bailed into this position, which was drawn.
This is the downside to playing everything. The upside is sometimes you get to surprise your opponents, and your opponents have a difficult time preparing for you, but the downside is sometimes find yourself out of your element.
Yeah, okay. When we left it, Andrew just was having too much fun. Black's king is the one under attack. Well, Michael decided it was time to run. He didn't get very far. Bishop to e5, that came with a gain of tempo against the queen as well as the rook. The bad news for that is that when the king goes to e8, there's no connection between the rooks, so it's going to cost an entire rook.
B7.
And that's exactly what happened. He resigned as he realized that king retreats. There may be other moves like bishop f6, but
simple enough.
This is simple enough.
And if you count the pieces,
I have one more. Congratulations to Andrew.
Yeah, that'll extend his lead.
Yes, it will.
At the very least, maintain it.
But it's so many questions about this one. It's tough. We thought, okay, you got to trade queens. Why the self-inflicted wound on g5? We don't know. Let's just go to a couple of other games. Benjamin Bach for a quick read.
This one looks
drawn.
Pretty balanced, yeah.
He's up against Nikolas.
Yep. Temur Kuybokarov.
Pardon me. Yeah. Why did I say Nikolas? Not Drew. Rook b4 looks pretty drawn. Christopher.
So Christopher was also just a half point out of the lead coming in, but this one is not going to be good for a full point.
No, 3 versus 2. Crazily enough, in the Norway chess, Magnus just won a 3 versus 2 against Ali Reza. One of the most stunning, epic fails, I want to say. If the pawns were on b6 and a5, it would be a trivial draw. With the pawn on a5, there is one solace for white. The solace for white is b6 checkmate. So, rook. So on a good day, I'm going to go king a4, I'm going to go c4, I'm going to go b5 and b6. None of this would be possible if there was a black pawn on a5 and a black pawn on b6. So it's a 3 versus 2 drawn, but thanks to that little wedgie on a5, I'm going to say there's a 1, 2, 3, 5% chance of a win.
You at least have something to play for.
You got something to play for. A draw is afoot, of course. We're going to go back. Is this game still going on?
No, that one ended a while ago.
In a draw.
Yeah, that wraps up the games in the A group. Checking in on Josiah against Akshat. Josiah snagged that bishop, and we thought Akshat's attack maybe was pittering out, but Rook B8 is there.
Rook B8.
It's a nice move. So in a lot of lines, we wanted to play D takes E4. So if the queen moves off that diagonal, we're happy.
Right.
And in a lot of other lines, we wanted to play Rook A2.
Right.
So if Queen A2 lands, maybe we're also happy.
Right. And the difference was that also, for example, in Queen A2, we were moving our bishop to either F1 to defend G2 or to G4 to defend G2. If we put our queen on A2, oops, we walk into a nasty pin.
Absolutely.
So that's a nice little foxy move there, that move Rook to B8, asking White's queen where she wants to go.
It's never easy.
White's queen went all the way back. Makes sense. Takes King G1. And this is much more dangerous. This is a much more dangerous line than previously.
In one version, White's Rook was on the second.
Right.
Black's Rook is there.
Oh.
I do think we have a guest getting ready to join us in the studio.
Oh,
now,
lovely.
So while we keep an eye on this game, we'll see if Andrew Hong is ready for an interview.
Andrew Hung may be in the building. Akshat still has to prove himself here as we keep an eye on this one. In the meantime, I'm going to bring up the Andrew Hung game so I can quiz him. And for Andrew, he's been on a bit of a win streak. That's always nice, as he is in clear first. Let me go. And we're getting Andrew mic'd up in studio here. So this is this crazy knight E7. Michael has done this before. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm glad for your return. Take it away, the Berlin. And Michael has done this knight E7. It didn't come as a surprise for you.
Well, sort of a surprise. I mean, he repeated. He played this the day before against Ray, I think.
Ray Robson, yeah.
So I wasn't 100% sure he's going to repeat it, but
right.
I think he did quite decently with this line. And I think it's not so bad. So
really, I was explaining to Caleb that there is a reason why the top 10 players in the world don't play knight e7, but Michael, a bit of a trailblazer, he has his own path. I mean, obviously, from Black's point of view, if he can go knight g6 and c6 and d6, everything's copacetic. What is there not to like? You have to play your role as a disruptor and play the move d4. Quick question for you. You're familiar with the Cochrane gambit with knight takes f7 against the Petrov?
A bit.
A bit. Because it looks very doubtful, right? c6, knight takes f7, king takes f7. So you get two pawns. And when I was a kid, I found myself really attracted to gambit. So I just looked at like every gambit in the world. I concluded that the Cochrane gambit was unsound. Even though Vessel and Topalov played it against Vladimir Kramnik in a classical game.
Right.
But this one felt like White has achieved a little bit more because the knight on e7 is probably in the way. I don't think you looked at it very seriously during the game at all. It was just like one of those things. As a commentator, we got to spice things up.
Right.
Okay, but what happened in the game? You tell us. We take it from here. After d4, are we still in your prep?
Yeah, I think we're both in prep. Yeah, so I decided to. I think this is probably one of the main lines.
Okay. Does this have a name? If you
no idea.
No idea.
But I think it's all been played before. CD,
Okay.
and then I remember briefly that h6 was a possible move, but
It seems strange.
yeah, it's possible, but
Please.
sorry.
No worries. It's
For sure, I think the main move was knight f5, and I
Okay.
think he knew that too, but he was trying to surprise me with h6,
Okay.
and I believe the move was rook e4, which is what I played in the game.
Right.
It's an interesting move because I'm
Threatening bishop
threatening
f4.
f4 and helping also the d4 square for the knight jump, g5.
Right.
I think this is all right. h4. I have a feeling castles was the move, but I wasn't like 100% sure during the game. And after bishop g7, take. Okay, here I paused because I thought it might be interesting to start with queen a4, but I think it's a bit. I thought there was no need for this. I think.
I like what you did.
Black can
especially.
at least play, for example, like this. So I
Okay.
decided to take castles.
And this looked like just a free roll. You got you have a pawn, and it looks to me to us that you had the compensation too. His king's more vulnerable than yours.
But I wasn't sure during the game if this
Okay.
was an exact variation I'd seen in my analysis before.
Okay.
So queen a4, and I thought like for sure the only move for him was a6. It looks strange, but it's not. I think the game is still it still goes on. I'm not sure.
Okay.
And during the game, I was really not sure if this was in my prep or not, if it was a very similar position, because I think I'd seen something like this before.
Right.
That's why I was also spending time here, because I have like moves like rook c1, which I don't think, but it doesn't make too much sense because bishop c3 and then rook h5, rook h8, and probably he has compensation. And so I think queen a4 is very natural. a6 was the only move. I was very shocked by bishop takes c3. I didn't understand the reasoning at all. But
Me either. We ourselves both.
yeah.
He's a pawn down.
Right.
He's got two bishops, maybe, but after bishop c3, he's not playing for the two
Yeah,
bishops.
so I think I have to take. If I take here, I think bishop g7 at the very least, and there's nothing concrete. For example, like if bishop 4, queen d3, rook b4, but I think black is holding after queen a6. Because if queen d1, knight e1, well, white wins, but there's nothing clear here, I thought. So but simply bc is probably best, and then yeah, I think
Sorry, that final position, which we were just looking at, that's rook b7.
Yeah,
king.
I looked at rook
Queen,
e7.
queen c7.
Queen c7 doesn't do much, at least knight d5.
Sorry.
So yeah, it's kind of tempting, but I should just take, and my position's good. I have no idea what his idea was, because he spent all his time and played a6, which I think it's an admittance of a mistake. So I really don't know what the idea was. But
Right.
a6, I think this move queen d4 is very important.
Why?
Because at first glance it looks like, okay, I have like these dark squares are weak, I should be attacking his king, I have an extra pawn.
Exactly.
But if you start looking deeper into the position, it's very unclear, like if you go move by move. For example, the move rook b1 is
Very attractive move.
very natural, and this is funny variation. Queen d3 I think loses to queen b4, and then after rook d7 you have rook d4, and then queen h7.
Okay.
Now you go rook h4.
Right.
And then
E7
you
is
take on
heavy.
h8 and take on e7. So this was a funny trick. But rook
Right.
b1, for sure his idea was rook h5, which is very strong actually. And it's
By the way, just to interrupt you, Irina Krush has defeated Alice Lee. Very, very big matchup of the ladies. Please continue now.
right. So this is extremely weird, but I think it works out. Rook b7 sacrifices don't really work. And then if I play rook b4, for example, very natural. He's in time to play rook h8.
Right.
He's threatening mate, and I don't have an easy way guard. If I play knight h4, at the very least he can even take, and this is not clear at all after king d8.
No
He has a
either.
block on c8. Right. And otherwise, if bishop h4, knight g6 or knight f5, either move, and then it's really weird. But like black is in time because knight f3 is with a check, and it's
Wow.
there's nothing. I thought. So.
You'd almost be absolutely stone cold certain
Yeah.
there has to be something there for white.
But obviously his position is kind of not great right now, so he's obviously looking for all sorts of chances. But I think Queen D4.
A quick question for you, if you don't mind. Here, the move Rook D4 was very natural.
Rook D4. I thought Queen C5. It's nothing special.
Nothing special, just Queen C5, and that's...
Yeah, sometimes Queen swings to H5. My pawns are still kind of weak.
Rook B1 in this case?
Yeah.
Because you wanted to play Rook B1 a moment ago.
Right.
Are we dislodging the queen, or are we improving the queen? That's a question.
I guess it's maybe possible, but I thought Queen D4 was
very convincing.
This gives him like many different moves you have to look at. So I guess at the very least he could put the bishop here and Rook on D7. I'm not sure.
Right. Fair. Okay, but Queen D4 you were very happy with.
Yeah, I think he just doesn't have a move here. Because I thought the best defense was Queen D4.
We concur.
And then so Rook H5 is the natural way, but this like loses immediately after F4. I guard it like this, and I at least like Rook E1, and then I'll take on E6, take on E7, and F5 if you exchange everything.
Exactly.
So this is lost, but he has like the little trick. Rook D5 is a lot better.
Okay.
Because if I take Rook H5, okay, I get an extra pawn and Rook endgame, but I think more accurate is either taking first to F4, but something like this, F4, Knight F5. And I think it's important because he also has a Knight G3 trick. This move Rook AE1 is very important.
I see.
And then after he takes on D3, I take on E6, and you cannot take on C3 because Bishop F6.
Right.
So I think this endgame's winning.
Nice.
Not sure if we saw all this, but I think this is all very important.
Gotcha.
And otherwise, the problem is, his knight is in a very awkward situation. Any like way to guard the knight, the queen just infiltrates. Queen B8, I just take a Knight D4, everything collapses.
Gotcha.
If Queen A3 or Queen C7, Queen A7 the same way. He's had a very interesting try, Knight F5. I've seen this move, trying to trade queens on his terms, where he's not pinned. But I think Queen A7 should end the game.
We thought this was all white, your pawn up, and it looked like you were breaking through. Yeah.
But it's concretely a little bit tricky. So Queen takes D3.
Yeah.
I think Rook B4 is important. So obviously, if Queen D1, I Knight E1, and I'm mating first.
Yep.
So he doesn't have that. B5 is hopeless. I think he played the only try, which is Knight D6. Obviously, I can grab the exchange, but it's not so clear.
No, we didn't like grabbing
because
the
then he puts the knight on B5 and he has chances.
Right. That was crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think Bishop F4 is very clinical.
In fact,
so
we
if Queen
liked it.
H7, if Bishop H2 Knight, I think they both completely winning.
Right.
I saw some lines, but I think there are multiple wins. So it's not very important. But Queen C3 was the critical way for him, I think. And his idea was after Rook A B1, Knight B5, and the game is still going on because I think Rook D1 maybe, but the point was it's very tricky because I no longer have Bishop E5 because Queen B4.
Exactly.
And the tables are turned. So.
Exactly. It just felt that Rook A1 to B1 was like the most natural move.
Yeah.
You play Rook to B4.
But I think, Rook
B4, B4.
Rook B1 is extremely strong, and I think he just has no defenses because Bishop E5 is coming and he has nothing.
Yeah.
For example, I think if Bishop D5, then Bishop E5, he has nothing. This is a funny line, but take. Okay, this never works. If you check and just go King F1, and my king runs. Otherwise, if it takes, like at the very least, I can just grab the rook and I have Queen A8, Queen H8 to collect everything.
Collect everything.
So Rook BB1, okay.
King D7.
Yeah.
Bishop E5.
Obviously, the difference is like here, my rooks are no longer hanging, so I just pick up a full rook.
Yes.
But over King D7, I think the simplest is what I played, Bishop E5.
Very clinical game.
And Rook B7, and at least I go up a piece in the endgame. So, yeah.
Well done. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing a very, very impressive game. You're in good shape. I feel like you're playing well, and a game like this really puts some confidence in your sails.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah, I wasn't sure I was going to be in good form this tournament, but So far, so good. So
So,
try to keep it up.
keep up the good work, and we'll see you again.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. As we see our tournament leader, Andrew, there, very impressively taking down Michael in a pet line by Michael, but few questions for Michael as well. Bishop takes c3, as Andrew was mentioning. He didn't feel like that was a very good move, and it certainly didn't turn out very good either. Quickly picking up, as Caleb will shortly join us, the game, our marquee matchup, Awonder Liang versus Ray Robson. We think that Ray might have missed some opportunities earlier, be that as well. Rook takes c4, rook e8, bishop c3, and it looks very evenish after this move, queen c1.
Yeah,
Unfortunately for you, Caleb, I think we have another guest in studio.
That we do. Yeah, in this marquee matchup, we liked Black's chances and
Earlier.
other lines, but we thought in this chaos, White had options, and now it seems like White's settled the matter.
Put on the brakes.
As you
Put
said,
on
we
the
have
brakes.
another interview ready to join, so I'll continue
Exactly.
playing musical chairs as we
Okay.
get Irina Krush to talk about her win over Alice Lee.
Wonderful, wonderful. And just a second, as I am going to find Irina's game
Oh, it's up above.
up above.
That's the third one. Yeah.
There it is, Irina versus, oh, yeah. And again, we're just going to get Irina mic'd up, as today she was up against, well, a competitor of yesterday and a competitor of tomorrow. Alice Lee famously has won the American Cup this year. You were the defending American Cup champion, Irina. How is it playing Alice? Are these games? Thank you for joining us, studio. Welcome, by the way.
Thank you, Yasser. It's always good to see you.
I do. Always good to see you too, Irina. You play against Alice, and you know these matchups are important. They each time you cross swords with Alice, you know the fans are going to be watching. So is there that extra feeling of motivation?
Well, in general, there is, right?
Right.
Of course, my motivation after losing 3 games in a row is like a bit different,
Right.
in the sense like I have other things to worry about than just like, is it Alice or is it not Alice? It's
Right.
more like, how do I, get back on track in this
Right.
tournament?
Exactly.
So that was really what this game was more about. I mean, but yeah, of course, the game itself, it turned out to be quite clean, and I guess my opening choice worked out with this
Very well.
c4 move. Yeah, she pushed d4, and I got like the best looking Benko gambit
Benoni ever.
in the world. Yeah.
Exactly. I was explaining to Caleb and to our audience that here, it's very, very, very common to play moves like a5 and knight c6 and to slow down White's b4. In the game, when you've already achieved b4, I thought the
Yeah.
move a5 was a disaster.
Right. Do you think like maybe I was talking to Alice after the game, and I was thinking maybe after b4 c5 if she wants to do that plan.
That is a different approach. I would personally just leave the queen side alone, but and just play, castles, h6, g5, knight g6, and start to play on the king side. To my way of thinking, when you have played the move b4, that's your garden. That's your sandbox.
So you would just castle.
I would
and-
castle.
Yeah, and it's not exactly clear what White is doing, right, with the
Are
pawns.
you going to play a4? Or are you
I was
going to-
thinking about a4. Yeah.
Okay, and are you going to play
b5.
b5?
Maybe.
Okay, so yeah, you kind of like give the square a little bit. Oh, righty.
Maybe at some point I'll have to be playing like knight d2, bishop a3, developing some pieces. But yeah, so you're going g5, huh?
Well, again, I mean, I'm playing where I think I have my trumps. Hopefully, I'll have a trump. You have, by the way, committed your pawn to b5. Okay, there's an outside chance. I mean, I'm not saying, but there's an outside chance that I will go knight here and on a very good day, bishop f8, right? But okay, what I felt, and I felt very, very strongly about, oops, excuse me, this is not the game, right? Let me just refresh. Sorry. Oh, I keep doing that, my bad. I'm yes.
You found the game, Yasser.
Yes, I did good. I did good. My thought was that unfortunately the game is literally over
Right here, yeah.
after this move.
Yeah, you thought knight a7. Yeah, I mean, I certainly was.
I thought a5 was bad. I thought c5 was bad, but I thought knight a7 was egregious.
Yeah.
The last chance for Alice is right here, right now. I don't like her position. I love your position. I think she had to play the move knight before. So the idea is if you play a3.
At least I don't get the bishop there.
Exactly. And I'm going to put my knight back on a6, by the way.
And then, and then you want to what? You want to put the other knight on c6 and then try to go knight a6 to c5.
Correct.
Okay, that's clever.
That's clever. One of the things, strangely enough, is you're proud of your knight on b5, but your knight on b5 is in the way. So in the game, it was actually, she did you a solid service by trading those knights, and your rook is actually more powerful.
Yeah, it's funny, Yasser. So, you know, one thing I was wondering about after knight a7, like, so do you think rook b1 is the best, or would you be tempted by a4?
No, I think rook b1
One is better. It's better to focus on the pieces and the pawn structure.
I would be afraid that if I played a move like a4, my opponent would quickly sacrifice a pawn and try to plug up the queen side. Not that she's succeeding, but I loved what you did because, frankly, what you did was model everything. Irina, this is just a dream, and you played it really well. I was very pleased with your decision here to play. It was like you have used every square on the queen side, including now c5 because you're threatening bishop.
Can I tell you the other move that I was tempted by, in this winning position?
Yes.
Instead of bishop c5, actually at some point I noticed this quiet move rook b6 is actually very powerful.
Okay.
Because the idea is I can make tactical threats against the knight on c6. Like I'm basically already threatening just to play bishop d6 and win.
Right.
Or knight d6 and win.
Exactly.
So then the reason I didn't go for it, I mean, I'm sure it's a winning move, but like I thought she had to go rook a8.
Right.
And knight c5.
Right.
And basically I'm going to win the b7 pawn. She's going to go like knight a5. And the only thing is like, it was only a question of which way I win this pawn.
Right.
It's like, I guess I tried to get the better version of this, but I mean, this one is pretty convincing too.
Yes. Rook b6, now that you're pointing it out, is very, very powerful. But I really like what you did. I thought that this is me coming with real tempi. Everything is just dream. It's a dream.
Knight d6 was a little bit forcing in the sense like, you know, black actually has no moves at all.
Right.
Like I can play a move like rook b6. I can just wait a little bit more because maybe that's even cleaner. You know, I missed her move a3. That was the one thing I missed in this game.
Really?
Yeah, I missed a3.
It was actually kind of funny because we were also, like yourself, thinking in the same direction that black really doesn't have moves. If you play a move like queen a3, intending queen takes a4 and just saying...
Yeah, that's pretty convincing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like... but you're saying that her move...
Yeah, bishop f8. a3 is this thing in the game that I missed. Fortunately, it doesn't matter too much.
No.
Like the white position is so overwhelming that I can just sort of ignore that pawn move.
Overwhelming, yes. And I see we just got the game as Steven has won his game and you got...
Have you ever lost 3 games in a row, Yasser?
One time in my life I did. And I thought I needed to go to a hospital and make sure that somebody didn't change the rules of the universe. Like, you know, like I lost a game in Linares. I lost a game where I was winning or slightly better. Lost another game where I was a piece up against Boris Spassky. And another game where I convincingly lost. So and then I went on and saved the tournament, blah, blah, blah. But one time in my life, I lost 3 games in a row, and it was just really, really, really
Oh, it's
shocking.
a low point, isn't it? It's
It's
very hard to go on after
It's
that.
like you're asking yourself, what has gone wrong? Like,
Yeah.
What else? The sky
and
is
also
falling.
they come in different ways, right? Because like you said, like winning position, and then eventually you just lose a normal game. And for me, I mean, it was like the winning position against Begim,
That was terrible. That was egregious.
and then just like normal position, right? And one move the next day. So it was like
And then you come up with a game like this, where from start to finish, it was a complete
the
control.
only key is not to blunder, right? That's
Right.
it. It's really like if I just manage not to do that, then usually the games work out fine. So that's the thing.
A little bit time management issues still for you too.
Yeah,
somehow you're
not in
doing-
this game, but
not in this game.
Actually, not even yesterday. Yesterday I was way ahead on the clock.
Okay.
Even against Begim, it wasn't great, but at least it was an end game. And by the end, we also equalized on the clock pretty much, and it was just like such an overwhelming position that it's like I had enough time.
Right.
So the clock hasn't been, let's say, I would even say the biggest factor
It's just
in
been
those
the
losses.
blunders.
Yeah,
It's the blunders.
right. So trying to be more careful.
Welcome back to reality. Thank you for joining us on set. We hope to see you more in the remaining games.
Thank you, Yasser.
Thank you, Arena. Thank you. As Arena Crush defeats Alice Lee. This is Alice's first loss in the tournament. Up to this point, she had drawn all of her games. Maybe she was on the back foot. Was she? She had lost.
I think you had 2 out of 5.
She's at 2 out of 6 now. So.
2 out of 6. Apologies. She had actually lost 1 as well. So second loss for Alice Lee. Apologies to her. While you were gone, we saw that Stephen had won his game as well.
Yeah, it could be that I'm back in the studio for another 30 seconds if Stephen's on his way, but maybe I'll get to stay a little longer.
This was actually a very intriguing French defense, and I thought for the longest time White was doing well right until we saw this. In the Sicilian, we have the stock sacrifice, rook takes e3. In the French, we have the stock sacrifice, rook takes f3.
The other rook for the other knight.
Exactly. And, well, this was intriguing. Oof. Queen f6. Wow.
Looks like a lot happened in this game.
I was about to say, this is an absolutely crazy game. We didn't...
But at the end of the day, yeah, once you get here, it's...
Wow, the 2 bishops versus
Stephen
rook and knight.
keeps finding himself down 2 exchanges, 1 exchange, but good positions.
Boy, oh boy. This
Maybe
was
we should
quite...
ask him what he has against his rooks.
Right, this was quite the impressive game. Boy, let's see Russia versus
Yes, this
Begim.
is our critical game now as things are starting to solidify here in the B group. One of our leaders, Begim, is still playing against Raja, and we really liked Raja's chances. When
We
left.
certainly did, and not to disappoint us, but he did manage to clip an extra pawn, so it wasn't, he had pawn and compensation. Now he has 2 pawns, should be cruising to victory over Begim. Begim had a hat trick. I knew that Arena had some setbacks. I didn't realize it was 3 in a row.
Yeah, I hadn't quite realized that
I
either.
mean, that was a little bit of a kapow. 3 in a row. I once lost 3 in a row, and trust me when I say, I mean, I was just flabbergasted. I didn't understand.
We don't
what
have to talk
happened.
about how many games in a row I've lost before.
I had this wonderful story. In a random universe, I am on a flight Hamburg-Bristol.
Okay.
Don't even ask me why, where, what. My mother's side of the family is British. I was going to England. Looking to my right after we're settling in, Anatoly Karpov.
Sure.
Right
Just
next, I mean,
on a
like,
plane to Bristol? All right.
what? This is ridiculous. Hilarious. So blah, 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 blah. We get on the subject of Bobby Fischer. Why not? I mean, you know, Bobby Fischer, what would have happened if you had played him, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And 20 games in a row. not including the game that he won against Pano by forfeit, which would have made 21, but 20 games in a row. He wins 20 Grandmaster games in a row. Like, wow, like what a streak.
Yeah.
So Karpov, I asked Karpov, well, Karpov, what's your greatest streak of wins in a row? And he says 6. That he won 6 Grandmaster games in a row.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Wow, wow, wow. And I said, well, my best streak is I won 7 Grandmaster games in a row, and I did it 3 times. And he said, okay, but yeah, these weren't the best Grandmasters. Well, funnily enough, you were one of them. One of the great cheapos of all time.
He set himself up for that one.
Brilliantly, but on a flight in Bristol? I mean, like, why would this guy who lives in Moscow be going to Bristol? Anyway, H4, H5, this is the last move. It looks like Begim is just suffering.
Yeah, Brkic
doing her best.
Maybe playing for mate here even.
Yeah, on a good day. He's kind of, let's say, encased as bishop, and for good reasons. His king is nicely safe. But yes, you wanted to say that with the pawn on H5, this idea of bringing the bishop to F5, followed by queen to the 8th rank checkmate.
Yep.
That looks really, really nice. Interrupting.
And, yeah, the musical chairs continue. It's been nice being back in the chair, but
Yes.
I'm going to leave you once again, as we do have Steven Zierk here, fresh off another win for a 3rd interview.
Exactly. Thank you, and see you soon, Caleb. Ray Robson has drawn his game against Awonder Liang. And that game certainly had a lot of adventure in it. And I thought Ray is going to be very upset with himself as we get Steven in studio, setting him up the microphone as he wins today with the black piece of Steven. Welcome back to the show.
Glad to be back.
Exactly, you certainly are. I was mentioning, Steven, this is great. In the Sicilians, the dream Sicilian for black is rook takes c3. The dream French for black is rook takes f3. You got to live the dream. It was shaky. It wasn't the cleanest game, but it was fun. It was a great game. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, again, another very complicated game, a lot of fun. I think, so I have this idea, he might play the advanced. He played it against Casa recently, and I just played this move h6 on move 7, and it's a bit of a waiting move actually, because white would love to put the b1 knight on either a3 if I play knight g7 or
Right.
c3 if I take on d4.
Right.
So I'm just kind of waiting and asking him what he'll do. Like almost every move has a drawback.
So what you're about to tell me is the knight coming to a3 and the desirable knight c2. The drawback here is you're going to take on d4 and take on a3?
That's right.
Yes.
Yep.
And more or less, you're saying the dark square bishop is no big loss, like big deal.
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. I mean,
Yeah,
black has a lot for it here and very easy development.
exactly. Conversely, if white plays, I don't know, rook e1, what's a good waiting move, as you say?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like white can even look for something. White could even theoretically play king h1. A3 is move
a3
as
to
well,
drawback?
but a3 denies it the square from the knight. So
Right.
then now you could take d4 and play knight g7.
Right. Okay, and then
Although it is playable. I mean,
exactly. He, in the game, chose to play bishop e3, which isn't bad. After all, he's trying to say, hey, you're the one who, lost a pawn. Like, okay, so now prove yourself. Now you want to point out that h6 has a positive impact as well.
yeah, so it ends up working well here. It gets to support g5 on the king side.
Exactly. So g4 is a potential issue, and he played knight a3. Tell me when
Yeah,
the
so
fairy
when-
stops, because this looks like it has a flow to it, right?
It does, but bishop e3 feels a little odd to me. That's not a typical move there.
it's not.
I think
typical.
what I did, I think knight g7, and I think this should be a good punish. I mean, probably white's not in any big trouble or anything.
Right.
And I think I did something wrong around here, because what he managed to do, he prepares bishop d3, And after bishop d3, bishop f5 is a really annoying move, so he gets me to take on d4 without having to play g4 himself. Like if he played g4, then I would have some serious play against his kingside later with f6.
Right, so just to go back, you play g5, I play g4, you take on d4, and this is where you're saying that having committed himself to g4, well, I mean,
he's going to regret that.
He'd probably like to play back g4 back to g2. And you're saying he did it cleverly by getting you to capture without him playing g4.
Right, exactly. So now I have to take, or I'll have bishop f5, and it feels like a better version. But yeah, knight e3 can't be right, because now I get to demolish these center pawns.
Right.
Like, he's done such a great job building up this strong center wall. And I mean, I'm going to play f6 and recapture at some point.
Right, come what may. At this point, you think white pawn up?
I think white should have some edge. I mean, I have a lot of long-term help with this dark squared bishop. I mean, I'm going to be aiming at these squares forever.
Right.
But white shouldn't be able, I think, to establish control over e5. If he did, I'd be in serious trouble. But as it is, I think I'm going to have a lot of play for a long time.
Okay, so for me, a very natural move, go ahead and kill me. b4?
Yeah, b4 makes sense, so f6.
f6, and I'm assuming queen e2, how would it go?
Well, now I have, for example, g4 and fe5. That looks pretty scary, because then the bishop really comes to life.
Exactly. So I have to do it maybe no, I can't do it in a, that is strange.
Yeah, it's tricky for him, because I'm going to play f6, I'm going to take, g4 is a problem.
Right. Okay, so let's try rook e1.
So probably the same thing, I'll go for f6.
I'll take it, yes.
Takes. Yeah, and so, let's say queen takes. Yeah,
queen takes. And let's say I have to defend f2, here.
In here, so you want to recapture with the rook.
Yes.
Let's see, but I still have, for example, like g4, knight e5, I can perhaps recapture, and then if rook e5, I have rook c5. Oh. I don't know yet if that's the right idea, but I have a lot of ideas here.
Exactly. If I have to take with the pawn, okay. I wanted b4 for a reason before. None of this happened because he played the move knight e3, a move that you're kind of critical about. Although in the game, you know, if white gets to play knight g4, you're kind of dead.
Right, so yeah, if white blockades e5, but he's one move too slow. Like I thought, because if he goes for knight g4 there.
Now, yes.
Right. So now, this is a bit tricky for me, but I think I can actually play f5 here, and then this would be positionally terrible, except after knight e3, I have g4 immediately.
Correct.
And his pawns fall apart.
Right. His structure falls. Yes. So he'd have to knight f6.
Yeah, probably. Knight f6 is probably the best move here, but if he has to play that, I'm obviously not complaining.
No. So he went bishop back to d3, takes, queen e7. Now tell me what's going on here.
So here I felt, here I felt thrilled. I mean, this feels like about the dream, like every French player knows these rook f3 sacrifices, and this feels like a dream one because, I mean, the dark squared bishop has magnificent potential. c5 is going to fall after knight f3. His kingside is worrisome. Right. Like the one thing he has is this knight g4 counterplay he did in the game.
Exactly.
But I didn't think he could make that much of it. So here I felt really good. I felt very optimistic at this point.
Okay. And here queen came to knight takes h6, and of course there's a queen g8 issue, so you have to tether to the bishop.
So there's a couple nice lines here I had to check. Like, so if he can do queen g8 and queen takes c8.
That was what I wanted to ask you. I know the answer, but it visually it looks very impactful.
Right. Yeah. It looks like. I mean, it looks like a nice tactic, but then I have queen h6.
Right.
And he can't stop the mate because if queen c7, I have bishop e5.
That was the dream. That looked really beautiful. And I mean, come on, it's a fun line, and when you see knight g8 check and you think, oh, I'm winning a rook, that was very nice. He didn't do that because, as you just pointed out, he played knight g4, queen f4. The knight came back to e3, and this is what you were saying. Now you win back the pawn on c5, you made this beautiful sacrifice, you messed up his king, and you've got great bishops.
Right, yeah, this is just, I mean, such magnificent compensation for the exchange. I can't see white saving this.
Exactly.
I mean, knight g2 probably not the most tenacious, because I can simplify into this endgame that's just clearly winning. I didn't convert it the cleanest way, but it was clearly winning, and I don't think I was ever at serious risk of a draw.
Exactly.
Yeah, bishop b5, maybe a little too fancy. I thought the forcing lines worked more simply than they did. But
This looks so good, though. I mean, you're playing a French, Stephen. You put your light square bishop on e4.
Right.
This is the dream come true. What's wrong? Yeah.
yeah, I mean, just like last game, my bishops were real heroes.
Funny, we were just mentioning that your game with Akshot from yesterday, right?
Right.
Yeah, that was like another crazy, tenacious game. That one ended in a draw. This one, yeah, I think you converted from this position pretty nicely. It'll go down. I don't know if there's a Hall of Fame for the French defense. But, this one will belong in there as a kind of a model game for what you do in the French. Nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And come back.
I hope so.
I like your games, man. They're full of action. And there we see Stephen with a very nice win today. Just going around, I wanted to take a look at this game. Akshot. Wow, Akshot, holy smokes. That piece sacrifice, Akshot is making it work, Caleb. It's remarkable. We thought that White's bishops were defending nicely, but we can see...
It's one move that made all the difference. That
rook b8.
Intermezzo rook b8, and it's a completely different story now.
What do they call it? A game changer? And look at
Bishop
this.
a6.
That's not the kind of move.
Really
getting-
testing the limits.
You're getting bullied here. Okay. That pawn on f2. I'm looking at queen g1 and I'm shaking in my boots. Queen h2 to g1, I beg your pardon.
Yeah, sacrificing the rook, but winning
Look
some
at
other stuff.
this. This is great stuff. Akshot.
Ooh, and queen h2's on the board? Is this live?
Yeah, no, this is...
Okay, so takes.
And he ends up winning back the bishop.
Got the bishop back. And by the way, there's a few pawns coming down the board.
Right? Oh
yeah,
my.
and this is going to be over.
Easily. Wow.
So, yeah, Akshot playing aggressively, and today seems to be working out for him.
Very, very, very much so. So this was a remarkable attacking game where White kept the, White lost the initiative, and I thought the defense was there. But the move rook b8, that really set the position ablaze. In this position, it's close to resign. In fact, I think check followed by check.
Check, check. E2.
Defending the pawn.
E1.
Yeah. And I think we're going to get the memo shortly.
Yeah. So the situation in the B group
Yes,
is
please.
absolutely crazy. So one of our leaders, Andy Woodward, made a pretty uncontroversial draw against Melik. So his position is safe.
Right.
Begim's position, not so safe. She's in
was
trouble
2 pawns down.
against Raja. So Steven Zierk, with that win, will join Andy atop the leaderboard. And if Raja is able to convert this endgame, he will be our third person tied for the lead. So
Exactly.
a lot rests on this game, but I don't think the result's too much in doubt. There's still a little bit of work to do. Got to break this light square blockade.
And their Akshot did win.
Yes, as we
What
see
a remarkable
a resignation.
attacking game. By the way, Raja did go for that bishop h3 to g4 variation, setting up those nice checkmates on the back rank. Intriguing for me is this position. And I remember Mikhail, a grandmaster from the Soviet Union. He went to live in Belgium. He was, at the time, one of the top 10 players in the world. And in this type of position, he made a fantastic maneuver. He went king h2 to h3 to g4.
Sure.
And like it was, his king was actually safer on g4 than on
The pawn shield moved, so just move to the shield.
and he tucked his king in.
Nice little cradle.
And it really was an impressive game. impressive concept. And this idea that, you know, your king would actually be safer in front of the pawn shield. And that's the way it appears to me. And that was why I was reminded of the game. Looks a little bit surprising. Raja, okay.
Yeah, not immediate progress being made.
Right. So when you have such positions like this, there's a rule, and it goes like this. Centralization, centralization, centralization. You can't, so your queen is on d6, not b6. Your queen is really good on d6. Best would be to have the queen and rooks reversed.
Okay.
So your
Well, let's
rook
make it
would like to
happen.
be on d6, and your queen would like to be on d4, because you could play rook takes h6 check as well as rook d8. So this position, I would centralize queen to e5, rook to d6, threatening takes, and then put my queen back. I'd also
And
put
you
my
might need
king
to
on
bring the
g4.
king there first, and then.
Yeah, and I think that would
there
have
you go.
won rather straightforwardly. A
It
little
was
to and
shuffling
fro.
around a little bit.
I suppose Raja got here, and in his mind's eye, he was ready for rook takes h6
Sure.
and easy peasy win, only to realize Begim's not going to take the rook. She would play king to g8, and then after rook here, he didn't want to face the music, but is there music to be faced?
Maybe. So queen c2 is a check.
It's one.
Maybe I'll throw in bishop f1. I'm giving up everything here on the queen's side. And
Well, you've
what am
already
I-
lost.
Yeah,
You
what
didn't
am
give
I-
it- maybe, but that's already gone. But
And what did I give it up for?
not sure.
Not a whole lot.
Doesn't.
Queen
Yeah.
g2 is like a move, but I
Yeah.
don't think I've made a threat yet.
And there's one. So yeah. So
Yeah, bishop.
bishop
E2.
here. Okay. So at least you got some
But I mean,
thing.
it takes one defender. I can go queen b3 and
Precisely. I think it's gone. But okay, he didn't do that. I was sure that was his play. When he played the move rook d6 and queen b6, he wanted to take on h6. He thought the better of it and reset the pieces. And let me see if we're up to date with the play. Yes, we are. Queen to d6. Again, in my opinion, the queen on d2, the rook on d6 is the way to go.
Well, I think he might be intending to try and trade off these bishops and just get into somewhat of a major piece endgame.
The funny part is I feel that I would keep the bishops as white.
Yeah.
Why? Because I feel that the bishop on h5 has a dual purpose. The first purpose is it's h7 is mate.
Yes.
So I got the back rank mate. You know, I want to go queen takes f8 and win brilliantly. So the bishop on f5 has the purpose of attacking the black king, but also actually of defending the white king. Put the white king on g4 and there's no queen e6 checks.
Yeah.
You know, that type of thing. So I like the bishop, and from my way of thinking, your bishop has one purpose. Your bishop has one purpose, which is to prevent from playing c8 equals queen. So if I put my king on g4, I like the bishops. But bishop d7...
That's a very good point.
Bishop d7 has the technical desire of just playing c6,
Yeah.
c7, c8.
Breaking that blockade.
Yeah, 2 extra pawns should be winning. Where else is the action?
Yeah, with that, once again, Raja with a win here will move into the lead, joining Steven Zierk and Andy Woodward. That is our last game in the B group, but a critical one. And what's the situation in the A group?
Let's have a look-see. We have a number of results already. Andrew won and joined us and explained his victory. Very insightful explanations. Christopher Yu remains. He has no, he doesn't. That's
That
a
looks
draw.
like that game's probably over too. So we
Right.
had that 3 versus 2, but
Yes.
that'll be a draw.
And-
So with that, we have full results in the A group and just that one game remaining in the B group.
Exactly.
Um,
And
so-
by the way, Christopher has achieved more or less the maximum that he could achieve in this game. He got his
B5
He
in.
got B5 in, and he got this position, and it still wasn't enough.
Yeah.
So it was a draw.
Plenty of checks. So I think we have just one more interview. As Raja and Begim are wrapping up the last game of the round, we do have Akshat here ready to explain his victory today.
Yeah, and what a great game it was. As we will get Akshat mic'd up. And first of all, I have to find his game. And I did. And it was a really intriguing game of the initiative. Caleb's having we hope that Caleb will overcome the microphone and he will win. As we get him mic'd up. This was from a Queen's Gambit declined, but Bishop B4, early Bishop B4. I don't know if this has a name. Akshat,
Yeah, hey, thanks.
welcome to the show.
Appreciate it. It's
Good.
often that I get to sit in this chair.
Yes,
So I'll take
exactly.
it.
We've been missing you. Does this line have a name?
I'm not sure. I just decided to play it on a whim. And
Bishop
it's
B4,
pretty
97.
crappy, to be honest. And
Okay.
I think what he played is like the best setup according to the engine. So I would just sort of improvise with 97, C6 97, just play like a Carlsbad.
Right. Except in this case, he's
Yeah, I'm
already
not too
made
sure about the
inroads
structure, to be honest.
on the queen side.
Yeah.
So at this point, you kind of lost essentially strategically on the queen side, unless you can get
That's
it
a bit
pawn to
strong.
A4. Yeah, but the whole point is you want play on the king side now.
Well, yeah, his
Yeah.
king's in the center. So.
Exactly. So tell me where's about you kind of felt like, okay, I'm making progress.
Could you flip the board? It'd be easier for me. Yeah.
Okay, let's see. How do I do that? Do I flip it? No, that's a share. That's a reload. How do I flip the board here? Caleb? If you don't mind.
Coming in for the assist.
Coming in for the assist.
It's weird looking at it from White's perspective.
There.
Okay,
There we
sweet.
go. Thank you. Up top.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I saw this stuff with like when I took an A4 with knight coming to E4 and playing H5, and I thought, okay, I have some threats around his king. It's not so easy for him to play. I mean, he loved to castle, but then I have Queen G5, and then
just to put that on the board, he'd love to castle, but Queen G5
yeah,
followed by
Queen
H4
G5, right?
is a serious issue.
Exactly.
Okay, so that was why he played in the game F3.
Right, F3.
Queen G5, here, and again, from my point of view, you lost on the queen side. Sorry to be the bearer of bad
I have
news,
a pass
but his king, and you played
Right.
move F5. Now, did you believe yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see a refutation, and practically speaking, it looked easier to play for black. It's not
Okay.
easy for him to consolidate, so I thought,
Okay.
yeah, why not F5? Looks good.
Okay, F5. And tell me when he makes a mistake or you feel like something's wrong. Rook E1, F4, up to
Yeah, he
here.
went into the tank here for F takes E4. I mean, it's a tough position to play, a lot of decisions. I thought F takes E4 loses, but he found a nice defense there. And I wasn't sure what I mean, there's so many moves, right? He can be like C4 to try to connect the queen to the E3 pawn.
Right?
I was looking at that briefly, and then, okay, I have ideas with Rook A8.
Rook A8 to...
Rook A8, yeah, just keeping
Okay.
the pressure, just piling up the pressure. And it's still a very difficult position to play for White. I mean, even if there are no threats for Black, it looks like he has a bunch of threats.
So, and the difference
I
in
assume this just loses to Fe3, Rook F2, I mean,
Fe3, Rook F2,
something like that, maybe.
Rook F2.
Although he might
say-
be, yeah, Bishop G4 perhaps. Maybe he's holding on. Knight F4, I don't know, it looks scary.
Yes, it all looks scary, but I mean, we saw these types of defenses and we weren't really sure if, you know, when the queen can defend along
Right,
the
yeah.
third rank. So,
I mean, maybe rook e8 isn't the best, but I feel like I should have something.
So,
I mean,
so you were looking at c4. You're looking at the game continuation,
right. And bishop f1 was really the only other move.
and then bishop f1 was the other kind of like seizing the defensive and just putting up. Through it all, though, you felt that the initiative would prevent. Oh, you liked this move was really good. When did you find rook b8? Because without rook b8, we thought you were losing.
Well, I'd seen it initially when I played f5. I'm like, okay, I have this rook b8, and then I take on e3, rook f2, rook b2, and it's like over in the 7th rank. But he has a defense there somehow, which he managed to find. Yeah, queen d1 is important. I think it's the only move. And now the point is, if I go rook f2, he has bishop f1, and then rook b2, queen g4. That's what I didn't see initially. I was like, are you kidding me? How is this working?
And then it's over.
Then
he
just lose here.
Yeah, you beat back. The attack is beaten back. But you had this very nice move. Again, we did not see rook b8 and rook b2. And now
the point here is bishop f1, rook takes f1, obviously.
But
now he has rook f1.
We didn't see this defense initially, and now we thought, whoa, the attack is raging.
Right, yeah, exactly.
Like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, rook f1 is forced, and I didn't see anything better than to go for this forced repetition, which was pretty disappointing, but but then he played king f1. I mean, he said he saw that king f2 was a draw, knight f4. I mean, I think this is a draw, I could be wrong, but I think it's just a repetition, and king goes back, like e1, queen g3, king f1, and I can't make progress here. I mean, his rook's temporarily out of play, so I could have some chances maybe if I take on e4, but I don't really have a threat still. Yeah.
Right? You don't want to. You don't
want
to
it could
play.
Backfire too.
Play with fire too long.
Right.
It could backfire. But this you expected a draw, and then he surprised you.
Yeah. To his credit, he wanted to play for a win, but I think he just underestimated how difficult it is for white after the following. Yeah.
Well, this is really already where I would pull the brake. I mean, when you're getting bullied here as white, and knight f4. And
this is all forced because I'm threatening knight d3 now. If he allows knight d3, then it's just over. Like queen e2, queen e1, everything is coming. So he has to take on f4.
Okay. And takes, and now queen h2 to g1, and it's a girl.
Exactly, yeah. And rook a2, for instance, he can never play that because of queen h2, and rook d2, queen g1 to pick up the queen, and queen d2 it's mate. So that's also important. The queen h2 is just coming very fast.
And then you pick up the queen. Yep. And so
what he did was the only move. Rook a1 to cover the back rank, and then d4. And
this is nice.
Yeah, I thought this should be winning like slowly. I'll just play e3 and then get my king up, and then queen h2, and he's pretty much helpless against this, I think. Yeah, he probably went for his best chance here, just giving the piece back, but it's just
now your pawn's up.
Yeah, he's a pawn down. It's very passive.
And he's very, very passive. You went on to win the game, Akshot. I find this to be a remarkable attacking game. I thought it was really nice. And a special gold stars for rook b8, rook b2. I think it was required in a certain sense because, again, strategically, I hate what you've done on the queen side. But the fact that you have such a nice feel for the initiative, have you always been, pardon me, a gifted attacking player?
No, not at all. I hate playing interesting attacking chess. I just want to play lazy moves.
Right, me too.
Somehow I keep getting positions where I have to think, which is annoying. But yeah.
But it paid off.
Yeah, this was also sort of just an intuitive sacrifice, which was nice. I didn't have to calculate too much.
Right.
So that also helped. I think Tal would have been proud.
I'm proud. That would go in my. If I had a chapter of best attacking games, it's a very slim chapter.
Exactly.
Right. I want to play the laziness. Akshot, congratulations,
and
thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Lovely. Great game there, everybody. A great attacking game, and it wasn't at all obvious that the attack was going to pan out. It was this great move, rook b8, and the sat back here for white was okay. White played for the win with king f1, as Akshot was saying. he had expected king takes f2 and the inevitable knight f4 to repetition and draw game. Great stuff.
Well, with that, I think it's probably about time to wrap up our show. Thanks to Akshat for coming in and explaining the big attack. Again, that rook b8 move made all the difference.
Gold stars.
But yeah, let's see where we stand in the A group with all the games in the round to finish. So we have the full results.
So winner.
Hong stands atop the pack with a 1-point buffer.
Exactly.
Joining him, or in second place, tied, is Ray Robson, Awonder Liang, and Christopher Yu, with a few players on 50% as well. Not totally out of the running, but Andrew threatening to run away with it.
Indeed, and in the B groups, how are standings looking at that?
In the B group, there's one thing still up in the air. I think Begim's game is still in progress, but we are expecting Raja to win that game and move into first place. The two players that we know are tied for first are Andy Woodward and Steven Zierk on 4 out of 6, a very nice score.
And I think Begim has lost.
And that game is official as well.
Yeah.
Begim has lost against Raja, so he does officially join the lead as well. Begim, despite the stumble today, still just a half-point back.
Right.
And again, the lowest rated player in the field, so a half-point back. You know, it doesn't feel like it after a game we take, but still a very nice tournament so far, and good chances to win the entire event.
And we pass round 6. We're coming up into the championship round, 7, 8, 9.
Just a few games left.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us at home. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. Games start at 1:30 p.m. and you can follow us on our show at uschesschamps.com starting at 4 o'clock.
Absolutely.
Good night from St. Louis.
Good night. Thank you for joining us. Tell your friends where you're hanging out, and we'll see you all tomorrow. Good round. Lots of good attacking chess today.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.